Hey guys, how's everybody doing? How's everybody's afternoon going? We'll get started here just in a few minutes, so if you would just kind of bear with me for about another minute or so while I get things ready. Just familiarize yourself with my screen. You can see that here. Uh, on your left here is my current account. Those are the positions that I'm in. And then we have a weekly on the left and a 4 hour on the right. And most of these I'll be giving you levels, and some of these I'm looking for entries, so I'll be looking at my particular entry, and then my targets, and then also just kind of the risk behind it, where my stops would be, and so forth. And also, just right at the end, we'll talk about the kind of top two conviction trades going forward. Obviously, a lot of traders are having a hard time probably sticking to long positions going into tomorrow. A lot of times there's a such thing called a strangle, and that's what you do on a neutral strategy when you expect a bigger move on either end. And I like to do this with the SPY, and it just so happens that at least on Thinkorswim tomorrow we have the zero DTE, which means 0 days till expiration. Tomorrow, so it might work out very nice for me to put on my strangle right before the close. But if you're new at trading, a lot of traders think that perhaps there is that you have to close out at 3 o'clock Central here or 4 o'clock Eastern. But you can actually, with Thinkorswim at least, I'm not sure about other platforms, but you can trade the SPY, the Qs, DIA, IWM up to 15 minutes after close, which is really cool. So just keep that in mind. So we may be looking for something after hours if we get some sort of bogus move to the downside or upside. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So first thing I'm going to look at is going to be the ES futures. Okay, and ES futures right now. Exactly, I'm going to go over what we talked about this morning and then just try to run through you so you can see how I saw that, but also why I didn't get long or anything like that going into ES futures or even on the SPY. Okay. All right. So again, left is your weekly, and as you can see, we're making higher lows, and we did make a new all-time high, but we're just kind of coming inside. It looks like on the day, and over here on the right-hand side is your 4 hour. Now I'm going to break this down for you. We have a lower highs here. We're making higher lows, and that equals a sideways trend. I explained this morning that we have an inside candle right here, and then we have an inside and down. That lets me know that the higher probability trade is to the downside, and I gave you three different levels. Actually, four. I said if we could not make a new pivot high, that we would not be looking for longs. And then I gave you what's called the trendy edge, which was 4,245. We hit that level. I said if we were to come back and visit that, that we would break that down and then look for our next level, which was this red line here. And then finally, I was looking for a touch at or around what we call this edge here, which was the daily edge. And we came about 1 point away from that. So if you're here and you're just kind of monitoring a lot of our traders have our scripts, and as we get lower on the curve, this is where you want to be looking for that potential long to the upside. As you can see, again, about 1 point from that trendy edge, and then we started to move up, but we cannot now, we cannot get out of the 4 hour cloud. Anytime we're in this cloud, so I just kind of outline it there for you, the trade is never easy because you're sitting in basically chop and a lot of resistance, okay? But also, this inside and down right here, and this potential inside and up, let me go ahead and draw that for you, lets me know that tonight we're most likely high probability just going to chop around. So I'm not a big fan of trading the futures tonight either. So just beware. If we're opening up tomorrow morning at or around this 4,252 level, I would expect to pull back on open. If for some reason we open lower on the curve towards this yellow line that I gave you this morning, And let me go ahead and give you that number really quick, around 4,227, that I would expect to be getting long into the open. Okay, so these are my major levels. Anything between is just noise. All right. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the NQ. All right, so the NASDAQ, again, about 42 points or so for every dollar in the QQQ. The weekly looks amazing. We do have a topping wick. That lets me know as well that bears are kind of in control at those all-time highs. And this morning, just like the ES, we were going inside and down. Higher probability was coming back to test the edges. And you can see those. And then again, this lower edge down here at around 13,978 is where I would expect price to end up probably tonight or into tomorrow morning. And this would give me, and you see this green arrow over here, this is part of our indicators. This is a buy signal. So I won't buy blindly. Again, I need it to come in there, and if it reclaims, then I'll be looking to take that trade to the upside. I could do that either in futures or I can do that in the QQQ. Again, just like the ES, what I'm seeing is basically two opposing levels that would otherwise dictate that we were looking for chop going into tomorrow's data. Okay, and that makes a lot of sense as we, get closer and closer. What I will say is I really like the iron condor here or a strangle. And if you're interested in those levels on the Qs, we'll get to that here in a second. But I wouldn't expect price to break through right now, 14,107. And I wouldn't expect it to break down below 13,926 as far as right now is concerned. I would expect there to be noise because price is in the cloud. All right, so everybody please just listen up to that. That's where price is going to have noise right between these clouds. Nothing's a secret. Those EMA clouds for me, I use a 9, a 22, and a 44. So those levels are very important for trendy indicators. Okay, so again, I don't expect much to happen here on the NQ. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the SPY, and then what do we have here? About 14 minutes before the close. And just kind of assess what we're seeing here. So the neutral strategy, okay, right? We're neutral. We're in between there. We used to make this yellow, and what we would say is in the yellow, let it mellow, right? And so in the neutral, just let it do its thing. It's just noise. It keeps us from wanting to take a trade to the upside. Yesterday, you can't see that broke out over 424.89 into about 426.17, giving you a little bit of cash on intraday trading. Everything we took yesterday was intraday trading until proven otherwise, and it continues to be like that. I trimmed a lot of winners and closed a lot of winners this morning, and then we just slowly got into a little bit of what I would call hedges, and I'll talk about those here in a second as well. Okay, so SPY, how do I want to approach this? Well, we've already made this pivot high, and if we continue to make higher lows, that's what's important here. If we continue to make higher lows, notice we have a low here, a low here. If we were to some reason take out this pivot in here, then I would be concerned that we could be looking at a further continuation to the downside to 422.5 and possibly 420.68. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for tomorrow. Now, the same way, we're going to set this up the same exact way as we did today. If we cannot make a new pivot high, and I'll go over those tomorrow in the room. I won't be broadcasting tomorrow live. I'll just be here specifically at Trendy Trading. But if we can't make new highs over the pivots that we're looking at, then we're not going to get long. We're just going to stay neutral. Neutral strategies, iron condors, or a strangle. And again, on a strangle, what I'm looking for right now on the SPY is simply this. About 425.5 to 426 on the call side, and on the put side, I'll be looking at 422.5. So I'll be looking at those numbers before close or about 10 minutes after close to decide whether or not I'm going to execute those. Okay? All right, so that is the SPY. And let's go ahead and move over here to the Qs. And after that, then I'll get into a couple more trades. And overall, it's been a fantastic day. I am green on the day. The biggest position that I have on right now is CELH. I also put on a FedEx trade that is also positive, and I really like FedEx going into earnings, and I'll go over that here in a few seconds or a few minutes with you as well. Playboy, I got stopped out today, unfortunately, and it looks like, it's trying to come back a little bit. I am okay with jumping back in a trade. It's just a trade, so we'll take a look at that as well. I put a square trade on. I would call that a lower probability. Some traders call that a lotto trade. I don't call it lotto. It's a low probability simply for the fact that I'm still following some rules here, buying at a level. It's just that timing is the variable and is against me. Overall, my allocation right now is really light, 2.5% allocated. So that puts me at 97.5% cash. Okay. VIX, I went over that trade on Twitter today. I gave you guys the details on that. That also is just a hedge in case we do fall into a little bit of volatility because of the skew. All right, so the Qs, also in neutral. All right. If I were looking at this trade tomorrow for a strangle, I'd be buying 344.5 and looking for 339.5. Those would be my strangle. My call side, again, 344.5, and then my put side down here towards that 339.5. Okay, that's QQQ. All right, now let's go ahead and go over some names here. So I'm going to go over CELH. All right, and on the left, again, I have the weekly. On the right, I'm going to go ahead and go with a day. This is a swing trade for me, so I'm not really interested. Honestly, I'm not too concerned with the day. I'm more or less interested in the weekly. All right. So a lot of good stuff going on with this company. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. If you haven't, it's not really a big deal because I lead by using technicals. On CELH, what I'm looking for, my most important part of this trade is the weekly candle. That means I have to commit to the weekly candle. That means I need to wait until this weekly candle closes. That means it's only Tuesday, right? So I need to at least try to hold my position until right before Friday and make sure that it's going to do what I need it to do. Right now, I need it to stay above the 9 EMA. I'm going to go ahead and annotate that for you. It's right here. It is holding. This is a trendy edge. Notice that when price is under a trendy edge, we look for it to be resistance. So far, it is resisting. The one main thing that I like to see this week is that we hold above the 9 and that we close inside of the previous week's candle. That means price needs to basically stay where it is right now, which is above 63.75. Even more of a bullish setup is if this closes over the trendy edge, which is going to be 65.20. I really don't need to pay attention too much to this trade. The easiest way to commit to a trade is understanding your loss before you take it. All right? Listen to me. Accept your loss before you take the trade. All right? Now, if you can't accept it and you're up all night, this lets you know that your allocation is too small or too big. Sorry, too big. All right, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to create an alert right around the 9 EMA. Let's go ahead and do that. Create an alert at or below. So basically, I got two levels here. All right, you see these levels, folks? 65.28 and 62.29. Everything between here is your life, right? So when you take a trade, you need to understand where your resistance and your support are. And what I mean by that, in here could mean beach trade, right? So you go into the beach trade. Boom. We do a lot of those here in Florida. The next thing could be fishing, taking care of the groceries, I don't know, honeydews, right? There's all kinds of different things that can happen between these two alerts. And instead of sitting here staring at the charts, you need to also live your life. That's what's being trendy, right? We need to take care of ourselves, make sure that we understand levels, and get away from the screens. All right? That's about conviction in your trades, but also understanding levels. All right, so CELH, so far it's doing what we need it to do. Let's go ahead and move on. My next trade was going to be FedEx. So I took this trade today. This is a lead into earnings. You can see here it's moving very nicely. Same kind of look. We came down, we flushed some traders who might have been long, who had stops under here. and then we made a higher low, and guess what? We're going inside. We also have earnings coming up, and we're going above the trendy edge. Now we're stuck at the 23.6. We know what that means here at Trendy Trading. You know what it means. It means that's resistance for right now, but we have something particular that we look for over that 23.6. And I'll tell you this, if we can get over that 300 level, there's a high probability that we will see 304 and then potentially 310. Again, I bought some time with this and I plan on selling before earnings. All right, far as stops go, what I'd be concerned with is if for some reason we take out this week's low. That is FTX. All right, so moving on here, let's go ahead and look at A, B, and B. Now, I took this trade yesterday, and I added to the trade yesterday right before the close, and I sold today, right? And you could say that I sold right at the perfect time because we came into the daily top EMA here, and you can see that, right? So this is resistance. On the daily, we're inside a cloud. It's resistance. Most importantly, over here on the weekly, you're underneath the cloud, folks. Okay? So if you're in this trade and you're mad because you bought the top, and I'm not talking about trendy members, I'm just talking about anyone in general. If you took this trade, we're going to talk about some bull stuff and some bearish stuff. The bull is that we're printing an inside and up. The bearish part of this is that we're still underneath the cloud. All right, so when I take a trade on the downside of this cloud, then I need to be ready mentally to understand that this is not going to be an easy trade. Okay, plain and simple. Not an easy trade. So what does that mean? It means you either allocate smaller or you give it some time. All right, and then you got to have levels where you don't want to be in the trade anymore. Okay, so that's A, B, and B. All right, so let's move to the VIX just really fast, and I'll try to hurry this up before we come to a close. And by the way, these are my positions over here. I think I already went over that, but we're very transparent here. We also had the best alerts out there. I'd put that against anything. We got some of the best developers here. So this comes from my API into the trading floor within milliseconds, which is really cool. It shows allocation percentage. It shows the price I paid. It shows what time I paid. It's fully transparent. So just wanted to basically make sure you guys all understand that these aren't trade ideas. Trendy doesn't say, hey, look at this, doesn't take it, and then brag about it. We don't do that type of stuff here. All right, so this, what I'm looking for is I bought some 18s and I sold against it as well. I did what's called a debit spread. You can find that on Twitter. Basically what I'm looking for is just like a stock, right? That's how I look at it. It's underneath the trendy edge. It's underneath a cloud. It's not the easiest trade. So I bought 30 plus days of, on it for an expiration. But I'm also understanding that the skew is really high. The market seems a little stretched, just a little bit. And people are talking about inflation. Right? So basically it's like a hedge in case something happens and the volatility spikes really big, then we'll take advantage of that. All right? All right, so let's end this with two stocks that I'm highly convicted on, and we'll talk about those just really quick. All right? So Upstart, right? Yeah, everybody's talking about it, whatever. Who cares? All right? So we're down to $1.66 today. All right? And it came pretty close to our blueprint. And yours truly, I have not executed this yet, but this yellow box here was a buying zone. We came into that, and you can see we have bounced so far. So tomorrow, because we're coming into the Fed day, we just want to, I probably want to relax a little bit and see if I get a buying opportunity in the morning. My idea is to buy the dip, right? And again, I have a lot of cash there on the side to do that with. All right, so that's Upstart. And what I'll be looking for, folks, is a target of 137 and then finally 161. And my stops for this would be under the 104. Now, what if 104 happens first or 100? Then I'm simply going to let it come in, and then I'm going to wait for it to reclaim that 104, 105 area. That's my plan, okay? The next one that we're going to be looking at, we did really well on Futu. I'm just going to say this without showing the chart. Futu, I think we see 200 by the end of the year. That's our forecast on that stock. And then I went over CELH, and the last one is going to be DMTK. All right, so here we are. Risk around 40.88. What I'm looking for is if we can reclaim tomorrow over the trendy edge, I'm going to go ahead and start a position at around $42. I'm looking for 47 by 54, and my stops are going to be roughly around 38 and a half. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can find me on Twitter. You can send me a message. Also, check out TrendyTrading.co. If you like the content, please give me a like and please retweet just to help other traders. We've been around for quite some time. We're just now starting to tap into some other social media platforms. So just give those a follow as well. I sent the links out, and help me build that so I can help other traders. You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.